Hi, welcome to Danny After Dark. If you're new here, make sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss a notification or a new episode. Tonight, I'll be featuring the case of Richard McCroskey and the Farmville murders. This was a case recommendation by a friend of the show Star Trekker, so thank you, Star Trekker, for the suggestion. Now, let's go ahead and find out more. Let's go ahead and dive on in. Richard McCroskey was born on December 23, 1988. He was raised in Hayward before moving to Castro Valley, California with his sister Sarah when he was just a kid. His father, who was a rock guitarist, introduced him to bands and music such as Metallica, Primus, and Insane Clown Posse. In high school, Richard was constantly teased and bullied because of his weight and his red hair. Neighbors described him as a loner. His sister Sarah described him as a mild-mannered and kind person who never fought back or defended himself unless he was provoked. Richard dropped out of Tennyson High School and then attended Hayward High School. However, this was only for a short period of time because they ended up dropping out again. Richard, now 20 years old, was a graphic designer and an amateur horrorcore rapper. He was living with his parents and with his 21-year-old sister, Sarah. Now Richard was devastated when his father asked his mother to move out of the family home. Now, he didn't have much to look forward to. The only exciting thing he had was a planned trip to Virginia. This trip was so he could see his girlfriend, Emma Niederbrock. They had actually never met in person. They had dated online now for almost a year, but they spoke to each other almost every single day on the phone. September 6, 2009, Richard flew to Virginia. Emma Niederbrock. Now she was only 16 years old. She had been homeschooled since middle school. She was interested in music, such as the occult and macabre, and she played soccer. Emma's father, Mark Niederbrock, was a 50-year-old pastor at a Presbyterian church. He had held this position for the last 6 years. Before entering the ministry, he worked similarly as a graphic designer. Emma's mother, Dr. Deborah S. Kelly, was a 53-year-old who was an associate professor of both sociology and criminal justice studies at Longwood University. She had even started Longwood's chapter of Lambda Alpha Epsilon, which is a criminal justice fraternity. Now, recently, Mark and Deborah had gotten a divorce 9 months prior. Due to this divorce, Emma was now living full-time with her mother, Deborah. Melanie Wells was a close friend of Emma's. She was 18 years old. She was also staying with Emma and Deborah. She similarly had dropped out of high school, but she was now studying to get her GED. Richard, Deborah, Emma, Melanie, and Mark went to Michigan for a horrorcore concert called the Strictly for the Wicked Festival. Emma's parents, Deborah and Mark, had taken them to keep a close eye on Emma. Well, during the concert at some time, Emma and Richard ended up getting into a huge argument about their relationship and the future of their relationship. A few days later, on the night of September 14th, 2009, into the early morning hours of September 15th, 2009, Richard drank beer, smoked marijuana, and may have taken some painkiller pills before he left to go to Deborah's home in Farmville, Virginia. When he arrived, he attacked Emma, Melanie, and Deborah as they lay sleeping. Richard first killed Melanie, who was on a sofa in the first floor den. Then he went to the upstairs bedroom and killed Deborah. Finally, Richard went downstairs to Emma's bedroom and killed her. They had all been bludgeoned to death with a hammer and maul. September 17th, 2009, Mark had arrived at the home around 5 p.m. Richard was waiting. Richard attacked him with a maul in the living room. He then later moved Mark and Melanie's bodies into Emma's room. He then attempted to try to clean up the completely bloody den. At some point, Richard used a digital camera to record a video of himself. In the video, he said that he knew he had to pay for what he had done, and he contemplated suicide. September 18th, 2009, Melanie Wells's mother hadn't heard from her daughter in a few days, which was pretty uncharacteristic of her. So she decided to call city police and ask them to do a check on her daughter. She called the police because each time she called the Kelly home, Richard answered. And then he kept giving her a different story why Melanie was not available. So police went to the Kelly home, and who opened the door? Richard. He had told police that Melanie, she was out at the movies with a friend. So the police, upon hearing this, they just left. Well, Melanie's mother did not accept this at all, and she called the police again. So the police went back to the house, and it was when they went back that they discovered the bodies of Emma, Melanie, Deborah, and Mark. But by now, Richard was nowhere to be found. He had fled, and he had stolen and actually wrecked Mark's car. Richard was pulled over by a police officer, but the police officer was unaware of the murders. So Richard was only issued a summons for driving without a license. So now he was on the loose again. Later on, Richard made a call to confess that he was the one who killed these victims. September 19th, 2009, Richard was apprehended at Richmond International Airport. Police found him sleeping in the baggage claim area. He was about to leave and fly to California. He did not cooperate at all when he was arrested. And when asked why he committed the murders, he said, quote, "Jesus told me to do it," end quote. Richard had no prior criminal record, but was charged with first-degree murder, robbery, and grand larceny. That was for stealing Mark's car. He was later charged with 6 counts of capital murder, as he was alleged to have killed multiple people within 3 years. He was subsequently held in Piedmont Regional Jail on a suicide watch. Police seized Richard's computer, house phones, and more than a dozen paper bags full of evidence from his home. Now, during Richard's trial, the prosecutor, James Ennis, stated Richard's anger over his relationship with Emma is what led to the killings. Specifically, he was angered by some text messages Emma sent him while they were in Michigan for the concert. Quote, "I think he had a certain expectation of the relationship with Emma Niederbrock, what it was going to be like after a year on the computer, and it did not turn out to be what he imagined it was going to be like. End quote. When they returned to Virginia, Richard became increasingly distraught about the relationship. Remember, they had gotten to that fight at the concert. He had an expectation that he and Emma were seeing each other exclusively, and he was unhappy about how things were going. September 20th, 2010, Richard pleaded guilty to the 4 murders. Although he was facing the death penalty, Richard was only sentenced to life in prison on all 4 counts. He also waived his right to an appeal. The victims' families supported this decision to reach a plea agreement. This was so that they didn't have to go to trial and go through that whole process, even though they could have possibly sought the death penalty. Richard McCroskey is serving his sentence at Red Onion State Prison in Pound, Virginia. That is the case of Richard McCroskey and the Farmville murders. Thank you for sticking around for another episode of Danny After Dark. And thank you again to Star Trekker for the case recommendation. Do you have any questions or comments on the case? I'll leave it down below. Let's be interactive. Do you have a suggestion for a case that you'd like me to cover? Leave it down below. You may see it featured in an upcoming episode. Until next time, remember, we don't live in darkness. Darkness lives in us.